Let's move on to the next one here, which comes from Entire Twix. And the summary of the question is, do computer-made errors in my input cause problems? I've been using Subtitle Edit to generate matching subs. It occasionally produces erroneous lines. I then upload the dub and matching subtitle file to Link for intensive immersion, during which I seem to catch most of the errors. After this, I use these corrected subtitles to generate cards with subs to SRS, and then only study the I+1 cards. Do you think that it's doing more harm than good if I'm, to some degree, consuming and memorizing corrupted input?
I mean, I think the fact that you're recognizing and correcting most of them yourself is good. I think that sort of removes the concern about memorizing corrupted input. There are definitely times when you will learn something wrong using input that is not correct. That being said...
You'll do that with input that is correct, though, too.
Potentially.
Like, you just remember something wrong pretty frequently. Natives make mistakes all the time.
Yeah, that's true. Like, sometimes I'll look at native content and the way they said the thing is wrong, or they used the wrong word. And that used to trip me up a lot more than it does now. Now I can usually be like, oh no, they meant this word instead. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in the past, there were definitely times when I would learn something and then I would come back to it a while later. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. So as you get more input, you will be able to correct those things. I would not recommend only using that kind of input. I would recommend using some like native content with subtitles if it's available to you. If not, I wouldn't worry about it too much. That being said, there's also the ability to like learn native things wrong, even if they are 100% correct. And that's something else that I've experienced where I would learn a sentence and I thought I understood what it meant and how it worked. And then over time, as I saw it more and as I developed my own abilities, I would realize that my initial impression of that sentence was wrong in the first place. Mm-hmm. Those situations should sort themselves out over time as long as the computer is not making like tons and tons of errors, and as long as you are not ignoring those errors entirely.
Yeah, I'm a little more on the side of just, I think it doesn't matter at all because it's overwhelmingly correct. Sure, if it's like wrong 10 or 15% of the time, that's a pretty high number. But I think you're learning German, and I know it's like that's going to be less than 2%. And you're going to get bad input from non-native speakers, from native speakers, like as much of that time, like, and you figure it out because there's an overwhelming weight towards the correct version of it versus the incorrect. And like Ethan said, you'll come back a couple of months later and be like, oh, why is that like that? That's just wrong. I just can tell. And so I just really wouldn't worry about it, honestly. And like you said, it's pretty easy to see errors, even if you're like intermediate or even like an upper beginner. I see errors in my check transcriptions all the time, and I can usually just correct them myself. It's typically just using the wrong letter, like an S instead of a Z or something like that. But it's, in some ways, it can like train yourself a little bit more because you like already have that intuition of that's not right. How do I fix it or whatever?
Yeah, the one caveat that I would add to this is that not everybody has that mentality or that sort of like a brain ability to notice those things that are wrong. A lot of people just trust whatever's in front of them, and I think that's dangerous. You should always be looking at the language and trying to analyze it and understand how it works, and when it doesn't make sense to you, don't let it solidify in your brain. Like, understand that, like, this is something that does not make sense to me. I'm not going to just like practice this repeatedly at this point.
Yeah, I think that's the more important part there. Let it go if it doesn't make sense, or if you have an intuition that you feel is correct, but like doesn't necessarily seem correct. Just feel free to let it go, and you can come back to it later when it's a lot easier, right? That sort of 60-second rule that we've said before. Where it's like, if something's taking you longer than 60 seconds to figure out, probably just move on. Come back to it later.